Welcome to the Elaborate Topics podcast, where we focus on lab-specific strategies for medical laboratory professionals. We're proud to be the healthcare detectives that work behind the scenes to get the results needed to influence medical decisions. Let's grow together and jump right into the lab.
Hi, friends. Welcome back. We are in season 4 of the Elaborate Topics podcast. We are super excited to come to you with an amazing show. It's our first show of the season, and we are here with the winning Bell Bowl team. And guess what? This team is a returning championship team. So, all of you other teams out there, you need to step it up because they are the 2-time champions and they are looking to take on a third championship. I, Lona Small and Stephanie Whitehead, are super excited to bring you this team. We are joined by their director of their program. We are joined by faculty of the program, so they have a supportive group and some of the members of the championship team. If this is your first time tuning in, make sure you go and check out our catalog of over 185 episodes out there. So whatever topic you're interested in, I guarantee you we have probably covered it in seasons 1, 2, or 3. So without further ado, I am excited, co-host. Are you all excited to talk with our team here?
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Absolutely. Awesome. Without further ado, we do have Mr. Bruce Blanchard, and he is the director of the program at the University of Connecticut, the Huskies. He is not only the director of the program, but he is a proud alumni. So he has been with the group for a period of time. So Bruce, I'll let you talk to us a little bit about yourself, and then you can bring on your awesome championship team and let them introduce themselves.
All right. So thank you very much. I'm really excited that we have an opportunity to talk about our program and to kick off a new season of your podcast. So that's great. As you mentioned, my name is Bruce Blanchard. I'm an assistant clinical professor at the University of Connecticut and also director of the Medical Laboratory Sciences program. And today I'm joined by Dr. Lauren Corso, who is an assistant professor in the Medical Laboratory Science program, also a former graduate of our program as well. Jerry, as I mentioned, our graduate assistant, is not able to join us today. He's currently taking classes for his graduate studies. But we are joined by some of the members of the Cell Bowl 2023 Cell Bowl Championship team. So I don't know if the students if Lauren and the students want to go around and introduce themselves right now.
I can go. So, hi, I'm Lauren. As Bruce said, I am also an alumni of the program. I'm currently a faculty member in the UConn program, and I teach generally micro, chem, and urines, as they all know.
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm a senior in the MLS program. I'm a postbac. My undergraduate was in molecular and cell bio and physiology and neuro.
Hi, I'm Jay. I'm currently a senior in the program. I'm doing this as an undergrad, so this will be my undergraduate degree, which is really exciting. And yeah, I'm 4 months from graduating.
Hi, I'm Lizzie. I'm also an undergrad in the program, and I'm a senior right now.
Hi, my name's Sarah. I am a postbac in the program, and my undergrad was in biomolecular science.
Thank you all for joining us. We are excited to talk with you more about where you are, where you're going, and what contributed to your success as far as the Cell Bowl.
Yes, absolutely, Taiwana. Thank you all for those introductions. So, I have a question, and we can start with Bruce or Lauren, whoever wants to take this. But again, congratulations on your second win of the ASCP Cell Bowl. So, why don't you talk to us about your strategy this year that helped you keep the contender as reigning champions of the Cell Bowl? Did you change anything from last year when you won, or did you keep the same formula? Or you don't have to give us too many of your tips and strategies, but
We're willing to share. We're willing to share whatever we do. So yeah, certainly shortly after winning the competition last year, Lauren and I and Jerry got together and started to talk about, okay, how can we introduce this technology into the class perhaps earlier, because last year's class, we only introduced it when we started the hematology class in the fall. So then, Lauren, why don't you go ahead and add and how we went ahead and started to introduce the Celevision app to the students an entire semester earlier than we did with the previous class?
Sure. In the spring, the students take a class. It's fundamentals of lab science and go through modules that introduce each area of the lab, including hematology. And there was an assignment that kind of went with each an assignment slash small project that went along with each kind of unit. And so for hematology, I made it a grade. So they had to download the app and try it 5 times. So just give them, like, a little bit of a taste of what the app was like, how they might use it going into fall, introduce them to cells. So that's what I ended up doing was essentially I made it a required assignment that I'm sure they love now.
And then one of the other things we did in the fall is last year's class, we primarily did all of our manual differentials microscopically. This year, again, we decided as a program, introduce some of the digital technology through Celevision. We introduced that through their proficiency testing program, which again allows you to basically have students perform differentials using the Celevision software. So we incorporated more to increase the comfort level with identifying digital cells. We incorporated that into their differentials assignments for hematology. So that was another thing we introduced to the class.
Awesome. So I think Stephanie, based on Stephanie's questions, I'm probably gonna jump into, I know you went into a little bit about preparation. Last year was your first time and you won, although you had a lot of different things in terms of tactics to prepare. I know there were a lot of motivation going on from the students in terms of songs and Motivation Monday. And a lot of it was more like, okay, I'm competitive, so I want to reduce my speed. So for this year, you've been there, you've done that. What was it that gave you that winning edge, you think? And maybe you can still continue to tell me a little bit more in terms of actions that you took to prepare you and gave you that winning edge for you.
Yeah, so I think the unique thing about our program is again, because last year's class, last year's champions are all graduated. They all graduated the program in May. And this year's champions is an entire new class. And so it's all, and I think Lauren introduced in the spring as far as, okay, here's the technology that I want you to try without pressuring too much to basically saying we need to win the competition again. We need to win the competition again. But then that class was in the spring from January to May, and then the students got comfortable with the technology. And then as the time went on and as we approached the fall semester, then it's okay, are we going to put a team together? And really, I think it has everything to do with the commitment of the team members. And I'll let Sarah explain her commitment to you in more detail, but she took it that we don't typically see since the cell phone era. She basically took her level of commitment to this competition to something that I would never expect that somebody in the cell phone era would do. Sarah, why don't you go ahead and explain a little bit your commitment to the Cell Bowl and the Celevision app?
Sure. I obviously am on my cell phone quite a bit because I'm a millennial who has cell phone. And I was trying to reduce the amount of time that I was just spending on social media apps. So I uninstalled all of them. And so when I started, I had already downloaded the assignment or downloaded the app for the assignment in Lauren's class. I would open my phone and then look at it and say, gee, what am I going to do now that I don't have any of my apps that I usually go on? And so I started just playing Cell Bowl when I needed either a brain break or I felt bored or anything. And initially, I was playing it quite a bit in the spring semester. I think I was able to get 5 perfect scores then, but they were just like very close to being 60-second time. They weren't very fast at all. And then in the fall, I really spent a lot of time playing during class, which I don't recommend for people to do, but I have ADHD, so I can't just sit there and listen for 4 hours straight, which is how long our lectures were. So I would take a lot of little mini breaks playing the game, and Bruce saw and everyone in the class saw I'd be over, and I usually sat in the corner in the front, and I'd be hunched over tapping away. And one of my when I was getting really low in time, I don't know where it was, it's in the low 20s, one of my classmates asked, "How much time do you spend playing?" And I thought that'd be a great thing to find out. So I went into my digital well-being app, and it said that I had played for 12 hours that week. So a lot of time commitment, but multitasking at the same time. Because again, I was in class, and that's something that I was able to do, doing something else while still maintaining a good grade. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend other people to do that, but if you have the same mindset and ability, instead of scrolling on something else, playing the game, and it'll help your score a lot.
Repetition, right? Build that perfection, practice. Did anyone else follow through with some of the people came to you and asked you, some people start spending more time on the app?
At one point, I saw Alex playing. He was sitting in front of me one day when we were in a random classroom, so I didn't get my usual spot. And I saw Alex playing during class, so I texted him and told him my method, and Alex can answer how it helped him improve his score a little bit.
Awesome.
It did. I was skeptical at first because I had the mentality of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I think that same day, and Sarah saw me get at the times, I dropped maybe at least 3 seconds. I was probably from 26 to 23 seconds, which is pretty considerable when you're down that low. And then from there, we went back and forth, just trying new things out and fine tuning our methods.
That's awesome. I'm just excited that you all were excited about participating and then finding useful ways to help you. I know we have a couple of local schools in my area, and it was hard for them to get participants to be on their team. So I have 2 questions for you. One, what made you all, so this is for Jay, Alex, Sarah, or Lizzie, what made you all commit to being on the team outside of your other studies, outside of your other commitments? I know that I have a group that does a Black History Quiz Bowl, and it takes a lot of outside study, right? Because you got to be fast with the buzzer and you got to know how to identify, in your case, the sales, in their case, notable Black history facts. And we lose a lot of girls from the beginning just due to interest because social media and cell phones and all of that. So the first question is, what made you all commit to being on the team? I'm not sure if there were other people that were interested. Was it a fight for the positions on the team, or were you the ones that stepped up and said, we're going to represent UConn?
Part of it was competitiveness. UConn had won last year and they had set a record. So when my score started getting lower, I wanted that record breaking spot, but also receiving the board of certification exam materials is definitely an incentive. But I think one of the biggest incentives is just our hematology class, because as part of our practical, we have 20 microscopes set up around the room, and you have to look into the microscope and you have to identify the cell without any materials. Doing all of that practice in the app, I think, was really helpful for our hematology practical, and that incentivized it for me that way.
That's great. Anybody else want to talk about why they joined the team? Or were you forced on the team?
I can speak from the other side of it because I didn't really have that competitive nature. I know the people in my class, they're all geniuses, and I knew that I was never going to beat their times. I not very fast on my fingers, and I I'm really bad with just recognizing things quickly. I'm not good at any type of speed games. I'm more of a skillful, slow person. So I knew I wasn't going to beat them, and I was really hesitant joining the team because I was like, if I'm not going to be putting those times up, what's even the point? And I remember one day we were sitting in hematology lecture and everybody was like, what's the harm in being on the team? What's the harm in being like this? Our entire class basically was like, we're all one class, we're all one team. Like at the end of the day, we're all going to graduate together. It's just something fun for all of us to do together and like bond over. That's the reason why I did it.
That's beautiful. I love that. So let's go to, did anybody else want to answer? Okay.
To add on quickly, I wouldn't say we were forced to participate, but Lauren is quite the competitive person herself, and I personally didn't want to disappoint her.
Okay. That's awesome.
Me. Got it. Yes, I am quite competitive. Which is, yes, I think it's fun. I think a little competition gives a little extra to something. I've been an athlete my whole life, so that's just ingrained in my soul. But I also think because our classes, they spend a lot of time together. They're in all their courses together. The classes are small, that it's what Jay said. You collectively want to do something as a team. You are a team. So I think that's part of it. I think it's great. And a little competition is always fun. Love it.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. I'm excited that you all have a team and pull together to participate again. I think one, when you have competition, it keeps you motivated. And then at the end of the day, it helps you so that you could be a better tech. So once you are ready to go out into the laboratories near and far, that you are prepared. So let's go to that moment. It got down to the final teams. And it was like, our winners are the University of Connecticut are our winners again. What was your initial reaction that you all won and that this was the second time that the program has won? So were you all shocked? Were you all excited? Were you, yeah, we got this, we knew it? Were you all, look what we could do since we came together? What were your reactions when you found out your team won?
I was relieved. I knew that it was unlikely that somebody was going to beat the 17.67, but at the same time, my mindset was if I could do it, anybody could do it. So I did have this little paranoia that somebody else was just going to put in the time and put in the work and somehow beat it. 'Cause if I got 17.67, they could get 17.66. So I was relieved when we found out.
We're putting the weight of the whole class on your shoulders too, realizing that your times were seconds better than others in the class. But overall, the class, I was really surprised with the overall times, which were so much better. And I think this was nationwide in the competition too. Some of the first week times we saw in the competition this year through Bowl were better than some of the final times from last year. And clearly everybody stepped their game up throughout the country. But I was more shocked before the tournament started that some of the times that the students were put in that were very low. And I just wanted you guys to participate again. And I didn't realize that they were going to be again super competitive related to their times were so good that you guys have a good chance of doing really well in this tournament again. And then as weeks kept going by and their times kept getting lower and lower. And it's just, I couldn't even imagine it. I've played the app and it never gotten like anything, I think, below 50 seconds. But so it just amazes me that they're able to knock another 30 to 35 seconds off of that. It's just really impressive.
So I have a question for the students, and then I want to circle back to Lauren and Bruce. But starting with Lizzie, winning this competition again is such a amazing 2 year in a row feat for your university, your program. So it really speaks to the level of education and the amount of preparation you all are doing there. But from your perspective as an MLS student, how has participating, competing with other programs really elevated your level of learning at your university? And then for Bruce and Lauren, Just circling back, I'm sure you're gonna go for the 2024 championship. And so how has winning these past 2 years in a row really elevated what you're doing there to prepare your students for their clinical rotations and eventually to work wherever they work in industry or in hospitals?
Yeah, to answer the first question, I think just competing in the competition makes you so much more motivated to learn all the types of cells and just really become invested in hematology, especially with Bruce and Lauren. They really make it so fun to learn all the stuff that we learn and the competition too. It just really motivates you to put your best foot forward and to learn as much as you can.
I can elaborate on what Lizzie said. A lot of the material we learn is like really dense and really hard because like you're staring at like 80 cells, but 3 hours a day, and your brain starts, you start seeing different things, and your eyes start wobbling, and it gets a lot at sometimes. Doing something like this, like something where, okay, it's just 60 seconds, you just sit down and you just see how many you can do or something like that. It was just something that, like, it was easy. I remember I was doing it once during my lunch break, and I was like, I'm on a break right now. I have an hour to not think about anything. And I was doing it because I was having fun. It was something like that where it was like, it made me want to like be more proactive learning.
So, Bruce and Lauren, about that question, how has this continued to elevate your program? I know you're going to go for the third championship.
So I mentioned that I had a class with the current juniors who in the fall will be taking hematology and hopefully joining Cell Bowl for the 2024 competition. So I had a class with them yesterday, and I did happen to mention to them that we are two-time defending champions of the Cell Bowl championships, that no pressure, that they weren't obligated to join, but certainly we were going to be exposing them to to the app itself and to some digital images to help them with their learning experience and to help them to get more comfortable identifying cells, not only under the microscope, but also on digitalized images as well. Which again, I think the main reason I want students to participate is certainly nice to win. And I feel extremely happy for the students who put the hard work into it and showed that with the dedication and time that they committed to the program, that they could certainly be successful in the competition. And they certainly have shown that. But the goal is so that, and then you guys have mentioned this in the past as well, the goal is to have an opportunity to get practice and learn more about the cells. There's only so much we can do in the classroom. And then they took on the opportunity to do a lot of extra work on their own. And the interesting thing about the competition is they're showing a lot of different cells on the app that we haven't covered yet in class. And so they're learning about cells that we haven't covered yet. And I think they can certainly comment on this as well. But I think what ends up happening is eventually they learn the cells from the app. And then when we get to it in the course, then things come along a little bit faster and they don't struggle with things that previous classes may have struggled with because they're already familiar with some of the maturation in some of the nucleated red blood cells or some of the immature white blood cells that we may have not gotten to yet. So I think it parallels the learning that we teach them in the classroom, but also gives them a little bit of an advanced preview of what's expected or what they're going to learn later on in the course. So I just think, and again, that are my goal at least. Certainly, I have some competitiveness in me, but not anything like our Division I volleyball player. But certainly, I want them to participate. I want them to have fun, and ultimately, I want them to learn. And certainly, they exceeded all of my expectations for the competition.
Awesome. I don't know if Lauren wants to add anything before we move forward.
I'm ready for a hat trick. I'm ready for 3.
Yeah, so I'm hearing from Lizzie and Jay that the competition and the fun, just having fun learning makes a difference. It's competitive, it's fun, it's gamified. And so they're learning things that they haven't even covered in class and they're doing well at it. And even for a seasoned professor coming back to, oh, I can't even beat my students because they've been in it, they've been in the trenches, they're having fun, they're learning. And I think that's something that we could take away into the classroom in general for learning or even the workplace. When you're really having fun, you thrive, you grow, it's like you can move ahead And I think this is great for just this whole initiative and moving into ASCP. When we're looking at it, I'm seeing a lot of success for your vision. And I know you're not the one that created this program, but based on what you're seeing, what improvement do you see? And I'm already start thinking expansion already, but for you, do you see any improvement that the cell bowl could make moving forward? I know, yes, doing a lot of hematology, cell morphology, but any improvement that they could do moving forward?
I really think that anything that can be digitalized, anything microbiology, different growth on different plates, parasitology, urinalysis, anything microscopic. I think anything that lends itself that it can be put on an app, it can be digitized, I think would certainly be another learning experience for the students outside of the hematology class. I think it would be great if there's other companies out there that are looking to get some apps that are more specific to other content areas. I'm sure, again, that the students would be interested in participating in those, but certainly they can chime in on that as well.
Yeah. So Jay and Lizzie, your experience, what would you love to see? And I know television is moving into urinalysis and microscopy. They're already doing that with urinalysis. But Lizzie and Jay, what would you love to see, seeing that you have had this experience with hematology cells?
I think exactly what Bruce said, just like adding more stuff. Like, I just finished my urinalysis rotation at the hospital and just like stuff like the crystals in the urines and stuff like that, like seeing all different types because there's one crystal can have 100 different types of shapes and just like playing around with that and stuff would be really fun. And like, it does help you learn a lot quicker, I think. And I think it's just like another stuff like that can help and it will be fun.
And Alex, I miss Alex.
Yeah, I think it would be cool if they could like extend stuff like this into other areas of the lab just because it was encouraging for students to learn more about hematology so they could do it for other areas and then people would be more likely to learn different stuff too.
Awesome. Awesome. So hopefully they're listening to the podcast and they'll get so this is amazing. I suppose that this whole initiative, I don't know if Salvo, if they anticipated such a great success and all these positive things that came out of it in terms of learning. It is amazing. It's fun and just amazing. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I think it's always good to see if there's ways that you can improve or expand or bring the program to different communities. I know we do a lot of work with organizations in Canada, for example. So other areas are always looking for best practices and things that work well and things that could be expanded or could be done differently. My question is for the students. So the program will start again in the fall for a new batch of students who are interested or not sure if they're interested in doing the cell bowl. So what is one tip that you would give to another student who is maybe considering participating in the cell bowl or maybe are on the fence? What's one tip that you would give to another student as to why they should participate in the program? And I'll start with you, Jay.
My tip actually comes from a tip that Sarah gave me. I really struggle with stuff like this because I'm just not like I take I like to take my time when I think about this stuff. I was sitting there and I was playing the game and Sarah was like, just like, don't, she's like, stop thinking about it. Like when you see it, what's the first thing that comes to your head? Just click on that. And I was like, okay. And I started doing that. And that was the first time that I got 30 in under 60 seconds. It was like really cool. So that would be my tip.
Awesome. So don't overthink. And as lab people, we tend to overthink and overanalyze. So that was a great tip. Alex, what do you think? What is your one tip that you would leave the listeners with, but also those future students?
Something Jay touched on earlier, why not? There's nothing stopping you. There's no penalty for performing, even if it's not as good as some of your other teammates or other schools. And if, as we've been saying, it's fun to do and it's going to motivate you, it will help you learn hematology better.
Awesome. Sarah?
Yeah, I know pretty much the same thing as Alex. It's low risk, potentially high reward. You're not penalized for doing maybe not as well as you'd like, but if anything, even if you aren't getting them, you can go back and look and see which ones you got wrong. And then what I was doing at the beginning was I was going into the atlas part and looking at the descriptions and at the different photos and trying to figure out why I chose the wrong one. And that only helped me further. So I think it's no risk, no reward. And it doesn't take a lot of time. I think it's technically 60 seconds, but it's a little bit more than that because it pauses in between the cells. So 2 minutes, you can do the game for 2 minutes and it'll help you overall.
Awesome. And Lizzie, we'll wrap this one up with you.
Yeah, honestly, what Alex was saying, it's fun. Just do it because there's no reason to not do it. And even if you're not competitive, me, or get really good scores, me, you can still have fun and you can still learn a lot because I knew none of the cells when I first started playing. And then after I got my best score of 50 seconds, I improved a lot. And now I know all the cells. It helps you a lot and it motivates you, especially when you can encourage your teammates and play along with them. Yeah, even if you're not the best at it, you should still do it.
That's awesome. I think those are great tips. And anybody that can identify the cells in under a minute, you are doing well. I can tell you from being a medical laboratory scientist for 20 years with the scope, the television is an adjustment for most of your working personnel out there. So I think you all gave really great tips for those future students who could be considering what's the worst that could happen. You learn something and you be really great in hematology. And trust me, that is a skill that you would definitely want to have.
Awesome. And I'm gonna steal Taiwan's style and do one last round robin as we wrap up for the students. But I work at an academic clinical laboratory, and we are a clinical rotation site for a few different schools here in Texas. And so from the students' perspective, you go through this game and you get all this excitement and you win this championship, and then you go to your clinical rotations as a laboratory that's hosting students during that clinical rotation, what would be your advice to preceptors and labs where students are rotating so that we can continue that fire of learning and give you the best student and clinical rotation experience possible? And I'll start going the other way. So I'll start with Alex.
My advice would be for the techs to also be open minded towards their students. I was showing some of the techs I was working with today the Cell app, and they thought it was awesome. They wished they had it when they were going through their certification learning. And so it's not always one directional learning. I've had a couple great encounters just going back and forth and learning more with the techs, not just from them.
We got to get our techs on board. And Jay, what would be your advice for a hospital or clinical lab hosting students?
We're all in the middle of our clinicals right now, so I feel like, at least from what I've seen from the hospital the last couple of weeks, just give us some grace. I feel like a lot of the time when I'm there, a lot of people, it's just a very fast-paced environment. Labs are very fast-paced, and I'm not meant to be here. I feel like I'm an intruder. I feel like I'm in the way of everything, and I'm like, but then sometimes a tech will come up to me, they're like, "You're okay, it's fine." And they're really nice and they're really patient. And I just think people who haven't really worked with students before, they find it a harder time to do that, especially when we're like, I'm young. We're really young. At least I am. And I think it's harder for some of the older techs to come, and we've learned all these different things with these different technologies, and it's very different from when they learned to be a lab tech. So I think there's two different sides to the coin. I think we're both qualified, and I think just having more grace with our new generation as we're coming in.
Thank you. What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I agree with Jay and Alex where incorporating the newer technology is great. Being able to look at things a different way, think about things a different way, and maybe if you do have a certain person set up to do the clinicals, do the training, but then you have a student who comes through and they just think a different way and be open, willing, and ready to maybe ask somebody else who has a different way of looking at things to maybe explain it in another way so that it's better for everyone learns differently. So having alternate routes of relaying information, I think would be great for the next generation.
Yeah, I think what Alex and Sarah touched on, just like the aspect of learning, being a student, and you meet different techs every single day in the lab. And so just seeing how different people do everything is really cool as a student. And what Alex touched on about it being like a two-way street. Obviously, you're learning from the people who work there, but then also they can be learning things from you, the stuff that you learn in the classroom. And also just the people who work there being excited to share new and cool information that they find during clinicals when they'll see something under the microscope and then they'll be so excited to show the students what they found. And it's just creating a very welcoming environment where they want to share information.
Thank you so much. And I don't want to leave out your director. So, Bruce or Lauren, any suggestions for as you're working with your points of contacts at your clinical rotation sites of things that they can do to support your program?
I think our clinical sites are very supportive of the students. And as you guys, I'm sure, experience as well, some of our clinical sites are experiencing a lot of shortages. And as a result, sometimes that kind of makes it a little bit more challenging to train students. Some of our clinical sites are training multiple students at one time, training new hires, training residents. So there's a lot of training going on. And I think sometimes they don't always embrace when you're trying to get the patient work done, when you're trying to get the work out, as well as training future laboratory professionals. Sometimes it can get a little bit hectic in the laboratory. But I think overall, there may be a few bad days here or there, but overall, our clinical sites do a phenomenal job as far as picking up where we left off here with the theoretical work and then applying that theory that the students have learned on campus and then carrying it over and applying it to a clinical setting. And then I always see that students have just finished their 4th week in clinical. Many of them have finished or are in the process of finishing their first rotation. And I always see such exponential growth when they get to clinical because they build upon the foundation that we laid here with and it also helps that Connecticut's a relatively small state. Many of our clinical sites are made up of former graduates of our program, so they know exactly what these students have gone through or are going through, and they certainly are able to guide them and help them along in the midst of their really hectic, crazy, busy days in dealing with short staff and again, trying to educate these new generation of students so that eventually they can help supply the shortages in the field, fill the vacancies in the field.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We learned so much from you, from the students, from just this initiative. There's just so much that I think that we other people can learn, not just so much for the competition, but just for general learning in the program and also for training, because I think that just so many things that I learned from here, we can actually put into training, not only training students, but training new people, new professionals. So thank you so much for your insight. And before we go, we just want to make sure that others who want to reach out to you to learn from you have some contact. So, how can people reach out to you to hear more about your program or just to connect with you? Please share so we can put that out there for others.
Yeah, so the department website is Allied Health Sciences, all one word, Allied Health Sciences at ucon.edu. If that's too much to remember, then the quick way to find us is just type in ucon.edu and then search for the MLS program. You can also reach our main office at 0486 2834.
Awesome. Before I go, any last words from anyone before we wrap up? Any last words from students? Anyone else? Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much. And we're inviting you to listen to this episode along with our audience and listen to other episodes. There's just a lot that we all can share and learn. Elaborate Topics podcast. We publish a new episode every Tuesday. This is season 4, where you guys are part of our launch for season 4. So thank you, audience, for listening. Thank you all for participating. And our website is directimpactbroadcasting.com, where you'll find Elaborate Topics podcast. We also can be found on other platforms such as LabVine. LabVine is a great learning platform. Also, you can just go on to labvinelearning.com, and there's a lot of free resources, including there's a section for Vine Stream where you can find our podcast. We are on almost all podcast platforms, so you can just go on your favorite podcast platform. We're also on LinkedIn. We have a group on LinkedIn. We're open to share. And also, if you have ideas for us to other episodes, or if you have ideas for guests on the show, reach out to us. Email is elaboratetopics@directimpactbroadcasting.com. So thank you all. Thank you, audience. Thanks for listening. And until you hear another episode, have a great one.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Elaborate Topics, where your hosts discussed relevant strategies for laboratory professionals. Please subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and listen to us on directimpactbroadcasting.com. Stay tuned for another episode with information you can use to excel in your laboratory career.